Okay, so I started, it's now 14 years ago. That was when I lived back home in Riga, in Latvia. I started to cook because at that time my best friend's father, he's a famous chef in Latvia. And so I spent a lot of time at their house and I saw him being so happy in the kitchen, and they give me it was very positive environment. And I said, maybe let me try too. And so I tried, and I did some restaurants back home. And then when I was 19, I left Latvia. So I went to Berlin. I worked there in this and that kind of restaurants, nothing crazy. And then afterwards, I moved to Iceland. I lived in Reykjavik for 3 years. So I worked at that time was the only Michelin star restaurant there. It's called Dill. And in Keks Hostel, that was like a place for local Icelandic people in Reykjavik. And that was really fun. It was like a concert venue, and they had all these beers they made at the spot, and really cool. So I took 3 years there. I wanted to learn about Nordic cuisine because in Latvia we're not very rich because of our history, so we don't have that much of let's say like background in cooking. And I wanted to learn how it is what if we had the chance, where could our cuisine be like. So that's the reason why I was in Iceland. And after Iceland I moved to Stockholm for 3 years, and I worked there in a couple of restaurants, KGS and Garba. So I got my skills there. And so yeah, my dream in my life was to move to Paris to work in like a Michelin star restaurant. And so I kind of planned to do that, but just for a short term. And when I arrived here, I took a job. I started to work in Frenchy, and I did hot station and proteins and everything. And little by little, I fell in love with Paris, and so my plan was to leave, but yet here I am 5 years later, and I'm not really planning to move away. So that's kind of that. That's very short. And so I've been here for 3 years in total in Le Grand Bain, and yeah, the best neighborhood. I live in the same area in the 20th, and it's really nice.
How did you end up here at Le Grand Bain?
So through my friend, his sister was a friend of the old chef here, not Fabio before me, but Emily before. And they were close friends, and she said like, this is my favorite restaurant in Paris, you should go if you're interested in small plates and crazy flavors and a bit more punk kitchen. And so I came here and I had a dinner. I really wanted to work here. And then a couple months later, as I finished working in Frenchy, I came here and Emily recognized me, and she said, why don't you come here? I'm looking for like a prep chef. Just come in the mornings. You will just butcher fish and meat and do some bigger things, and then you can go home, like a part-time thing. So I took that. It was nice kind of relaxation after working in Michelin star restaurant where everything was very strict and fast, and I was really tired. So I did that. I came here, and then little by little, she was about to leave in 3 months. So I worked with her for 3 months, and then my old chef Fabio became the chef. He was the second of hers, and yeah. Then afterwards, I just stayed here. I was second in the kitchen, like a sous chef, and it was really nice. And I enjoyed the mood, the atmosphere. My boss Edouard is the best restaurateur I have worked with. We do everything correctly, and it fit my philosophy in the restaurant industry. So that's why here I am, and I'm still here.
What's that philosophy?
Because we're in the verge of old school and new school bringing up. I was brought up in a very old school way, and you know, when the chefs yell at you in the kitchen, and you're like, it's a lot of like verbal abuse and like a lot of doing more hours than it should be, and I was feeling that I need to change for this and like should be more humane kind of environment and more freedom. And so I started to see that here, and I'm very proactive for that. And also, as we know, old school kitchens are very misogynistic, and here for the change was very pleasing to be also where is equality in the kitchen and in restaurant in general. And so yeah, that was a fresh breath of air.
Understood. Thank you. And talking about the food and the concept in terms of the menu here, what's it about?
So historically, this place, when the Eduard opened it with Ed, they wanted to be like small sharing plates, so very inspired by tapas, like in Catalan style. So it's been going on forever like that's here. We don't change the concept. We use always share plates. So the menu is very long, like 15 plates, like 5 fish, 4 vegetarian, 4 meat. So you can get like a little taste of everything. So that's kind of the concept, and but with a full-on freedom. For right now, myself, I'm a big fan of surf and turf. Like I really focus on that. That's basically is mixing fish with meat and meat with fish, and I do this quite like half of my menu is with that. And because of the history of this restaurant, we have created the clients, and they come here for that. They enjoy the. It's also kind of like in culture in south of France. They like the mix between like there's always like fish with foie gras or things like that, and yeah. And
I truly didn't know.
No.
I ate yesterday meat and then fish, like both mains, and I was thinking I was doing something wrong, but seems like no.
No, not at all. And I think that's my goal, is to kind of liberate the idea that you have to separate the two, because once you have better understanding, you can combine those two. Basically, in my point of view, you can combine everything. So there's some crazy dishes that I do, like we have like a croquette, deep fried. It's made from blood sausage, and then it's with a camembert and marinated sardine on top. And so it's everything. It's meat, fish, and cheese, which normally you're supposed to not to do that together. And yet, I think we are opening our mind that when you experiment something like that, you realize there are no such things like those rules that someone has created a long time ago.
You have put aside like the culture in the kitchen, but like focusing more on the food, that kind of freedom is actually getting its way out through experiments and fusion. That's pretty much what you're saying.
Yeah, and here we always have so much freedom to do what we like to do, and that's the thing, because the customer here is kind of okay. They're more want to experiment, and they're more likely to try something crazy, and so it gives me the chance to explore it and through trial and error, of course. But it takes a lot of. For me, I spend a lot of time home doing research, and I read a lot of books what other big famous chefs around the world have done. So I get inspiration, and I usually work with, I just pick one ingredient and let's see how I can build a dish around that. So for example, right now it would be, I'm very obsessed right now with like goat's milk, and I'm seeing everything possible how we can cook with goat's milk, and we'll try, through 1 month or until this obsession ends for me, we will discover a million different ways how to use that ingredient.
That's my usual question. Like basically, how do you start when you are, crafting a dish? So for you, it's the product that comes first, or maybe like the texture, or maybe the technique, or maybe the emotion that you are trying to convey.
It comes in waves. I think I tried before to force like my creativity and to make a dish, and I said, okay. And I sit at home and I try to work on it, or sit in the park, and the ideas don't come that way. I realized that, and I pick one, as I said before, I pick one ingredient, let's say, or an idea. Like recently, I was very interested in the idea how asparagus grows. So how like one asparagus like this peeks out from the ground. So I couldn't get this image out of my head. So I wanted to recreate something on a plate with that same imagery. And so for 2-3 weeks, I was thinking about it constantly, and like little by little, few things came along. I did some more research, what grows underneath the ground where asparagus grows, so I kind of could add like another ingredient to the plate. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Or, well, I'm a really big fan of, let's say there's a classical dish of, for example, in Italy, like we have tagliatelle bolognese, and I have this concept, and I think, how can I recreate the same dish, but that no one has done it before. So before I have done where the pasta was actually like a cuttlefish, cut and is in the same shape as a pasta. So you would eat that actually fish with the ragu of bolognese on top as being a pasta. So yeah, it's those associations that I work with, and I think that's how my creative process can come up with new ideas and things like that.
And that's about the dish, but then you have to assemble a menu out of those dishes, right? So what's important for you on a menu, like harmony, contrast, vice versa?
There is harmony in a build-up of how the menu looks like. Like, for example, here when I do like 4 fish, 4 veggies, and 3 meat, there needs to be like an understanding that the harmony is that there will be like 2 raw fish and 2 cooked, and you start your meal with that.
And you have something very easygoing as a veggie option, maybe with some fruit, and like very soft. And then you go back to more character with a vegetarian dish, and you finish off with again a big smack in the face with the meats, with
strong flavors. That's how I see the harmony between the dishes and everything during the menu. But it takes some time. So when I don't change the menu as we used to do every day here, because it's very hard to tell the story from the start until the end. So once I create a dish, it fits in some certain points as you go through the whole menu. So you have to adapt with the rest of the dishes, and yeah, that's the hardest part.
So you're saying you're not changing menu quite often?
Yeah, no, I'm changing small details, and I'm changing. Let's say today one vegetable came and it's the best quality. Maybe tomorrow when they send it, it's not in the best quality. So I'm changing accordingly to what's the best at the moment, what the best I could get, and yeah, I change like, let's say, twice a week, but not everything. So it's more easier. Before that was like a very hardcore thing to do in the kitchen. Let's change every day, because the people who work with me in the kitchen, it's very hard to grasp that information every day and again and again. So it's kind of like, okay, I understand it's hard to get to these changes every day. So we kind of adapt, and once we feel like maybe a dish is done enough, we change fully.
Do you think that casual dining today requires as much technique and knowledge as fine dining?
Yes and no. It depends on what's the style of the casual dining that you are doing, but I'm really happy, like also me, I'm the part of the new generation of chefs that we have done fine dining for a long period of time in our experience. So we're kind of changing the moment of making that fine dining into casual thing. Like we all have the techniques of being very precise and perfect, but we're trying to make it a bit more accessible. And sometimes in fine dining, you have 5 interns who are picking herbs. I don't think that's necessary. So I'm actually really happy to have those things coming into a casual dining. But at the same time, I really believe that you have to have the switch between the casual and the fine dining. Like fine dining should be like more like a treat, like once in a while. So you treat yourself, you feel a bit special, and there you get more surprised. I guess casual dining here in Paris, you can get surprised in a lot of places. But when you go to fine dining, you're thinking about it after a couple of weeks, you know, like, wow, what was that? That combination was incredible. And so, yeah, it's kind of like that.
At what point does a dish become boring for you?
Maybe when too many people say that it was really good. I like to be challenged, and I like to be a little bit unsure. So I think I have like dishes that I do again and again after a year. Let's say now we have like tempura of asparagus with the smoked sabayon, and we return to this dish every year when it's the season. So last year in end of April we did the same, and this year when it arrives, I'm happy for the first week, but for the rest of the time I'm like, I'm so bored of it. But people love it, and it's very hard, and that's the fine line between I'm bored with it, but people come here for that dish particularly, and you have to find the good understanding between that. But I feel like if I have also overworked some dish in my head, it also becomes boring. And the best ideas in the end becomes like the dish that is not boring becomes then when you plan something so long, and then because some product couldn't get to the delivered, or they didn't have it in the stock, you have to come up with an idea like à la minute, as we say, in the moment, and then you change it from being boring to something new again.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. I have a couple more questions,
Yeah.
but maybe we can change the setup. Yeah.
This is also our bar, Café
okay.
de Délices. So it opened 3 years ago, and so yeah, we have let people have some drinks before the dinner
And
then,
after.
and after, yeah, like that. But yeah, we know everyone here. It's really lively. It's really nice. We have doing 2 services. So at 7 when we open, it's mostly tourists, and then on the second service at 9:30, then it comes all the regulars or people from Paris, and so we have a little bit of both. There's a hotel just here, so the ones who are going on like a little bit alternative places in Paris, they end up here. And also because of the chef who opened it together with Edouard here, Edward, he had a TV show in America. So there's a lot of people coming from that, and they get disappointed when they see me. Because, but this is very old. This is like 6-7 years ago or something. But they still live in this world. But yeah, hello. Yeah, but that's. There are some tourists because they have heard something about Belleville that is like a very hip area right now for the locals. So they come here, and sometimes they come through the street and they stumble upon our restaurant and they come. We always keep a place at the bar, so we do reservations at the table. So we're always even open for that, and it kind of. It's really nice for people to be stumbling upon this restaurant and be like, oh, but we can sit here, perfect, let's have a dinner here.
And I mean, this bistro, does Le Grand Bar fall into this format of a bistro? It's something different.
So it's a bistronomie. That's how we say. It's like it's a neo bistro in a way of. Because the still food, it takes more, it's a higher level than just a classic bistro. And so there's that switch between the two. And there's a famous chef, Iñaki, in Paris. He opened Chateaubriand, and he was one of the ones who started the neo bistro, like bistronomie things. And here we are like 10 years later, and we're continuing the mood of it.
And now it actually stands for all those experiments. Yes, so that's where this freedom comes in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. We're just cooking for the feeling and what's the best, and with the very high technique, and also with the freedom. And Also because we're in this area where we have a lot of Asian influences because it's their neighborhood. So where also comes the mix match of using Asian spices into French cooking and French techniques. So that's the fun part of it.
Do you think the expectations of their guests they have changed like recently?
I'm not sure. I never focus on the expectations of guests. I think if I would focus on that, like, I will have headache every day. I just cook what I like to cook, and I'm really happy if people enjoy that. And I try to tell a story with my cooking and try to make things differently. And I just wish people like that. But I don't know. I'm not sure about the expectations here.
And what do you think? I mean, in your opinion, what does it take for a place to actually last in Paris?
Sorry, what?
To last, to live long in Paris?
I think you have to adapt for all the changes that there is in some way, but you also have to stay true to yourself. Like there is so many fast trends that happens in Paris, and if you follow that, you just become the same, like a big movement. And so I try to not be part of a big movement, try to stay true to myself. And I think that's the success. And Edouard, the owner of this restaurant, he's been selecting the right people who could tell their own story very uniquely. And I think maybe that's the way how to last long for a restaurant.